Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Kirby, and I want to help you. What it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Blue Collar Business Podcast, brought to you and sponsored by our wonderful presenting sponsor, Thumbtack. Guys, if you've owned your craft and you care about your results and you're spending too much time chasing leads that just don't fit, you need a solution that connects with you and your customers who appreciate your skills and jobs that fit your team and schedule and area. Thumbtack delivers just that. Without subscription fees or pricing surprises, as your business grows, Thumbtack's centralized tools, automation keep things running more smoothly. Ready to grow? Visit thumbtack.com/pro and book your personalized strategy session today. Guys, we're heading off into the software space today. As you guys know, I'm very passionate about software. We talk about it a lot on this show, but guys, I'm dealing with a little bit of a tickle in my throat, so I apologize. I've been trying to drink a little bit of water here, but software in the blue collar space, there's three types, I believe. I've categorized a few videos about them. You've got the front of the house, you've got estimating, and you've got sales, and then there's your project management softwares, and we can go off into all of those and what they try to generalize in and try and capture for your project management needs. But then there's always that back end software that most generally that we're speaking to an audience of entrepreneurs. I bet you guys are running QuickBooks, if I had to guess, currently. Now, there's probably some percentage of you running Sage, I believe is the other large one. But today, guys, I am joined by a gentleman that has used his wizardry of a team that brainiacs, and they have produced a product that I believe is going to change the game here and help you guys. And it's not just one of all three, it's all three in one is where I was going with that. Today, a gentleman I follow on LinkedIn, been following this company for a little bit, checked them out. I would like to say I'm an avid customer currently, but during our project management changes and corrections, as I've been sharing with you guys over the past couple months, didn't think that was an exact perfect time to be switching softwares as well. As you guys know, implementation and retraining of your guys it's one of the most expensive things we deal with. But today, guys, I am joined by a gentleman who has an MBA in leadership, and that is something that needs to be shined to follow that path, and to be on a part of a team that somebody has that kind of accolade is pretty incredible. But avid car enthusiast, traveler, family man, and the co-founder of ControlQore, my man, Caleb Smith. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Si. It's good to be here. Dude, I've got to match your enthusiasm for life, man. Just getting to know you more. This is awesome.
Well, guys, we had a brief intro call. Usually when I bring guests on, we take 15, 30 minutes and try and talk about maybe, what we're going to talk about through the show, and I kind of picked his brain a little bit. But guys, I'm going to be learning just as much as you guys today, and I'm going to kind of give the floor up to Caleb to talk about a product that is so unique. As you guys know, I'm very passionate about job costing, as we have learned how important that is and how important it is for the three words in our world is know your cost. And, there's companies out there 10, 20 years still don't know those three words. And, I just went through the pride and the ego shot of taking a step back and going, hey, you don't know everything like you think you do. So get to the right people. But I went software chasing, as you guys know. I've done the Procore game. We have also used Microsoft Teams as we started small iterations of what we thought we needed for project management. But it's not just a project management tool that you guys have built. What you shared with me in the intro was so almost relieving to me. It's the replacement for QuickBooks in construction.
Couldn't have said it better, Si.
Talk a little bit about it, my guy.
Yeah, you bet. So just like you said, we're a group of general contractors, project-based accountants that really, as we were scaling and building a GC firm, particularly my co-founding partner, JD, he still operates as a general contractor, just hitting this wall of challenge around having visibility and control over our project financials, really understanding where the heck we were as a company related to projects, and just having that transparency over, when you're transacting dollars in your company, do you know where those are going and how much you're spending? And so not only having that visibility for your company, but at a project level, and QuickBooks just wasn't cutting it. And in addition to that, just having a lot of frustration around having this financial tech stack that was just getting really cumbersome. We had to tie in a bunch of spreadsheets, maybe a few other softwares, make it work with Procore, figuring out what to do there. And so really we decided to set out to build this, solve those problems. Been building it and making sure we get as much industry feedback, both from the field to the back of office, to the CPA firms, to fractional CFOs, all of the people that have insight and stakeholder a stake in their experience with a software like this, bookkeeping teams, anybody, and making sure we build a solution that is aligned with the project-based world from a core accounting standpoint.
You hit it home, and that's where I was hoping you'd go with that, is that this team is not only super smart coming from the techie world and the software development world, but you guys also build things for a living. You also ran into the same problems that we ran into. Oh my God, I've got to go to this program to get this sheet, to get this cut and fill, to match it against this Excel sheet. And, my estimator still has 4 screens, and we get it all spread out. And, we build this schedule in this program to throw. It's so all over the place. And as you're scaling and growing, you're like, why is all of this so hard? And if you jump off into the software world like we were doing, man, we were just tiptoeing. And man, the first couple of programs, the implementation, it all sounded so good in the sales call. And I might poke at you a little bit today. I hope you're ready for it. But the audience,
man.
literally wanting to hear this, because we were talking about it a little bit in the intro, like the stigma of the software and contractor base. Like, guys, if you don't, everybody's basically got an accounting software. That's pretty much standard. But if you have tried to scale and grow, and you've got multiple crews, job documentation, scheduling, daily logs, all of that wrapped up into, of course, once it gets to the next level, is those project financials. And when I've been through these softwares, man, where they're not even set up for contractors. The terms don't even make sense. Like, where's a place to put a change order? What do you mean? It's not just, I wish I could just go, hey, everything's $300 and they pay me in 2 days. It just doesn't happen like that. Things happen and change through the project, but there's no way of properly documenting it. That's not, to take your words, man, not just completely cumbersome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
Software and contractors are already a battle, but from what I'm hearing, man, you guys are literally built this product from what phase do you guys kind of start? Do you start in the estimate phase?
So we actually don't start in the estimate phase. We start generally once the there's a contract in place.
Okay.
That's when the transaction occurs. So we are bidding and estimating is in the product roadmap. We with a little tongue in cheek say like ControlQore is, we have built it, every column of what ControlQore is. It took billion-dollar companies just to do like 20% of what we've done in the last 18 months. Now, were we able to build it off the backs of like what they all got wrong? Yes, absolutely. So we have an advantage there, right? But the component is like, we have to get all of the foundational inputs correct before we can continue building out the full like stack, right? And so that started as the core general ledger, covering all of the accounting components, and then making sure you had pathways to be able to manage and track and job cost every financial transaction that you have in a company.
No, I really, actually, our model right now is set up that CRM, we call it fantasy land up there in the estimation world, because it's like, till that point of contract, it really doesn't matter. Nobody past that office really needs to know about it, unless we need somebody to go take some shots or go build a quick surface or something like that to have an edge on some certain situation. But it's very, very slim to none that anybody outside that office. So we are currently set up on a CRM software up front, and it does very well. We've got some processes built within the what I call fantasy land of the hopeful land, the land of heartbreak. And so, but past that point is, once it hits contract, is okay, when the contract gets put into and that's where we switch over to our project management software. We run our project and our project management software, and then we transfer over into our financial software. And that's where it sounds like you guys have really linked, and it needs to be linked without it being some ridiculous process of input output. So it's a major problem. So talk about how a project, we've got our contract landed, we've got our subscription to ControlQore. What's our first steps?
Yeah. So, once your project agreement's in place, you're able. One of the frustrations that I think can happen in a system like Procore is it requires that you have all the information before you can continue to move forward. And how often is that the case in contractors' world?
Never, my guy.
So that's a key difference that we wanted to make sure we started, just like giving that perspective. Like, we live this problem, right? We know that this is not a solution when you're like, maybe you have a phone number and an email and like one line of information, and that's your start, right? Like,
literally,
you're just going, and then the owner, Cowboy Joe, was like, had his conversation and wrote the notes on the back of the napkin, right? Like, you got to work with that, right? And of course, I'm sure he's the dad of like the new person who's trying to take over all the operations, right? And so, that's just kind of what happens in life and anything in between. And so we want to be able to start working with financial data, even if it's incomplete related to the contract, and the agreement, so that you can begin attaching transactions or attaching information to that. And so basically, you'd set up a project in ControlQore, and you'd be able to begin working with that, whether it's in even if it's at the pre-construction level, or and not much is going on there, you can at least begin tying any cost associated with that to the project, right? So now you're actually able to get that visibility of, how much do we actually spend in the pre-construction of this project, that's like hammering your margins, rather than, well, we actually didn't get to, we didn't have any visibility until costs came later, and we had no idea that 40% of our margin was taken out actually like getting this project off the ground.
Yeah. Literally, it happens all the time. And I mean, there's a lot of guys probably listening going, man, what are they talking about? And they're just now learning about, I'm just trying to figure out my overhead percentage and my indirect cost and trying to figure out how to bid for that. And, they're just compiling it all into that. But the more you can get off of indirect and the more you can job, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, directly job cost to the job is always going to be better. But then you run into situations just exactly what you're talking about. And you wouldn't know about this situation until you go through it yourself of you've got this conjumbled, maybe potential project that could be game changer. They ain't got no information. Cowboy Joe just keeps calling you every Tuesday wanting a freaking number. The plans are halfway drawn together. There ain't no topo. There ain't no geotech, but it's a raging opportunity. But at the same time, you've only got his phone number. He won't email. He won't do anything. The engineer sends you I've been in those situations, but a lot of times we call them those pie in the sky deals is what our estimator loves to call them. And I love those opportunities, putting those together and materializing them all the way down to a point of contract. It can be absolutely tiresome. A lot of estimators don't like that. They want, they want a set of drawings. They want to be the best potential possible when it does hit that point of contract and they hand it off and they can't watch it anymore. That if they run up on that gravel line item and they've spent all their gravel in day one, they're like, hey, what were you estimating on? But a lot of these guys listening too, man, they're just finding out that, oh, I need to get that production data back to the estimator as quick as humanly possible so he can estimate fairly to a production level that we've produced.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a cycle, but I'm so glad that you guys I get it that bidding and estimating, it's really cool to hear it's coming down the pipeline, but man, there's so many CRM platforms out there that do it really, really well. And you're right. It's all, yes, that's great, but a point of contract moving forward, but still being able to take those pie in the sky deals, start adding information, boom, point of contract, here's the dollars and brass tacks, and move on. But once we talk a little bit about how we would break that job down in ControlQore, because job costing is something I just have really recently known about. That's one of those blue collar topic killers because job costing, they're like, oh, I job cost, my gravel was this. No, job costing through the project. You have estimated job costs, but what are your known job costs? And talk a little bit about how that contract is broke down and how the job costing progresses through, invoicing and kind of highlight job costing for these guys.
Yeah, great topic. So in ControlQore, we try to create an environment which you can capture every transaction that's coming into the company and manage and tag those, move them through an approval-based workflow that aligns with the right people on the job and into your back office staff. And so during that process, you need to have a structure that enables people to allocate costs associated with their correct buckets, essentially. And so you create cost codes, right? And so for a general contractor, that could be hundreds of cost codes. My co-founder JD, his firms, they've got over 600 cost codes they run through. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, right. He uses the CSI format, so go ahead and do a Google search on that, learn up on what that means. But it's kind of a generalized format. But that being said, so many companies are nuanced. They customize off of that. They do their own thing or they build out their own. We help a lot of companies kind of come up with their own thing, and we use a template as well if they want. But fundamentally, if you're a sub or specialty contractor, you might have maybe just 20, right? Like it's significantly different picture. Now, what's very important is to know that how you're breaking down your costs enable you to drill into the specifics of those related to, any part of the project. So it could be at architecture and engineering, or it could be, in concrete, it could be dirt, it could be finished work, any of that. And then you drill down in multiple levels below that. And that's nuanced for every company. But you could see, you'd have electrical, and then you'd have, is this like the wiring associated with that, and what's type of wiring, and then various components underneath that. And so you can go even 3 layers in. And what that does for you is enable you to then look back at your project expenses, and you can say, okay, man, we're getting killed on, maybe there's some tariffs, or there's increase in steel pricing, or this one vendor just randomly decided to increase their prices, or whatever. And you would have no idea if you're looking at the general picture of your project around how profitable it was. When you say, okay, well, this is where the expenses are going so far, and this is where we projected this would be as far as like the original budget cost, but you didn't have any idea that one vendor now is just like increased their cost by 50%. And maybe there goes your margin, maybe it doesn't. But either way, if you don't have that visibility, when project A just blows it out the door with it being awesome and profitable, but project B just tanks to you, and you had no idea that happened with either of those projects, when you get to the end of the year and your CPA says, yeah, man, you guys made $2 million this year. And you're like, that's nothing what I was in my bank account right now, and you're just feeling the pain because it does not translate at all across that. And so one of the other core things that we do is you have the job costing, and through the cost codes that'll on those transactions that allows you to get super granular in your projects. But then we bridge that into your company financials, where we do a cost type, where you are now, and this goes into the ProQuore thing, where ProQuore, it's been challenging. ProQuore looks for that, and so in order to get information working well with ProQuore, you need to be able to have a cost type. And so what that is if we have drywall, for example, as the cost code, the cost type might be labor or materials. And so then now at the company level, you can really drill in and understand where are my costs going at a labor level, materials, and you can get a really good picture from your P&L without having 600 cost codes screwing up your chart of accounts. And like when you as an owner try to go in there, you're like, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, we just saw somebody's chart of accounts where they were literally taking cost codes and putting them in as parts of their chart of accounts, and they had over 300 line items on the chart of accounts to just try to understand and bucket everything. And we're like, oh my gosh, yeah. And we've seen that kind of method is kind of being taught on YouTube as like a way to do things. And it's tough because it's like, guys, if you do that, you're going to be in a heap of trouble in terms of understanding where you stand as a company.
Let me tell you something. I am an avid YouTuber myself, shout out. But I mean, there is things that I will definitely get perceptions from, but from financial and the way you run your company, man, I would not advise you guys to be following anything from YouTube. I have been very ill-advised over the years by people that were very close to me, even CPAs. And if I was looking out and making sure I was seeing all perceptions of the market, I may have been paying a little bit more attention. But where I'm going with this, my guy, is you're hitting the nail on the head with job costing, and you brought up the ProQuore thing, and man, we did a couple of years worth of ProQuore, and we actually got hit in the head with cost codes, man. We were a 6-7-year-old company. We didn't realize we just got given this ginormously powerful tool that we were nowhere even ready to strap onto our tool belt because we didn't even have the basics. Like, how's your implementation when ControlQore? What are you guys doing at the implementation level to integrate this software and get it live, because I will tell you, the whole first year of Procore, I dang sure didn't even get it fully live. And then by the second year, we were coming through, thought it would really pull together. And we still couldn't get past cost codes and all these. Oh, we'd reach out for help, and then it would be another person and another Zoom's call. And I'm just sharing you with the frustration that we all feel in this market that builds that stigma, my guy. But what's the implementation like with ControlQore?
Yeah, it's a big challenge in the industry, especially around software. Like, it really doesn't matter how cool the tool is if it can't be implemented effectively. I mean, the GC firm on our side, it took 2 years to get Procore going, right? And it's like you said, a big lift, tons of work, right? And you guys have your businesses to run. You have fires to put out, you have projects to run, and so just getting bogged down in getting the value out of the software you're spending is not something you want to be having a headache with. So that has been one of the key competitive advantages that we've looked to take to the market in terms of the time and the about amount of touch points you have with us as the founders and with our whole team. Every one of our customers has our cell phone, and like, we're getting calls at 7:00 at night. Hey dude, like, tell me, like, how do I do this thing or whatever. Like, we will answer your question right there. We also have we have a full implementation and migration process. So we'll migrate your general ledger, and our team handles that. So you're just business as usual, doing your thing, and we get that all taken care of. We build out the back end as far as all of your project data, your job codes, your cost codes, and your job information. We work on that, and the thing is along that way, we set up every week at least 30 minutes of your time. Brian Solomon, my co-founder and our CEO, he oversees all customer implementation. So the CEO of our company, that's how high we prioritize that. And so he will meet with you for 30 minutes a week at least. If you need more time that week, we'll make that time. And we will meet with you as long as you'd like. So there's no you get 6 weeks of implementation and then you're on your own. We will train your team, we'll help them set up. And what we do is we do it on real stuff. So you say hey, I got this bill in. Okay, let's take a look at this bill and let's get this process. So, okay, we tagged it, we put the information in, we job costed it, we moved it into the next stage. Feel comfortable with that? Yeah, let's try another one. And then, okay, now you're good. Let's move on to the next segment. But either way, we're consistently enabling our customers so that this system just it feels like it's designed for them, right? Fundamentally, we want to be your key financial partner for 10 plus years, right? And just handing you a robust software like ControlQore is not going to be the best thing there. So ControlQore is simple and it's fairly easy to use. It's not like a legacy-based software that's just gonna, you're I have no idea what the heck's going on in this software. It's not overly simplified so that you can't accomplish what you need to, but at the same time, it's robust. There's a lot going on in there. And so one thing that's cool is, our team really focuses on optimizing the personas who are logging in under their roles. And so if there's a project manager, an estimator who does need to engage with ControlQore, or there's a controller, or there's an owner, they only see what's relevant to them. And so that, when you have approvals coming through for transactions, you only see those approvals for your projects that you work in, right? And what you need to handle. So that's part of it. We also, we try to kind of apply a dial to this where if you're super comfortable and you're dude, I can handle any software that's great. Take it. We'll still do implementation however you want, but you run with it. But others dude, I have businesses to run, I have people to manage. Let's turn that dial up. We'll help you with your bookkeeping. our team specializes in project-based accounting. We know like how to handle that. We'll bring in fractional CFO type engagements, but in a package where you're not paying for a fractional CFO. You're just getting their insights and guidance without having to pay like the monthly retainer. So you have cash flow forecasting, you have job costing reporting, all of that, but built for a small business, right? And because you still have the complexity that like a really large business does, you just don't have the budget and the bandwidth, right? So that's how we want to help.
Dude, it's definitely a gap in the market, dude. I have, again, been all over the map with softwares, and I haven't really shared what I use currently, but we have integrated Builder's Trend. I think this is our second year. Are we super happy from the standpoint of it being built directly for subcontractors? No, it's not. And here's the thing with us is like we GC some land development stuff. So we need the GC stuff, but a lot of times we're either a utility sub or a dirt sub on these commercial projects or et cetera. So it can be a wide plethora of range, but Builder's Trend has been great. There's some things I would love for it to go further on. And, we don't use any of the financials. I've already covered that. We use it directly for a project management based software because we have found it's about the only thing we can actually get results consistently back from the field, because I don't care how good the daggum tool is. If you're not getting consistent flow back from the actual endpoint of and back up to estimation, then it's all design flaw to begin with. But literally having this built by GCs for GCs, it sounds like this is the project financial tool that every general contractor should definitely get a demo call, and to have your CEO take the time and implement, because it is that big of a deal. Like you're pausing somebody's life, business. A lot of us, it's everything, other outside of our families, and it puts so much strain and extra stress because it's not just running like normal. It gives the owner or operators or whoever's involved, the team involved, it's just so much extra headache. But to hear that level of implementation is, did I hear you say you would help build cost codes?
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah.
Man, where were you 3-4 years ago? But to your point, man, there's a massive gap in the market for you do want to be you want to have that back end ability, I guess we would call it, of those big boy companies. But at the same time, you don't have their indirect budgets.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
you have to be sparingly. But if there's one thing you're going to be sparingly on, it doesn't need to be your financial software. You need to be able to, I love the word visibility and transparency that you used, man. You've got to be able to see that. And it sounds like not only will you guys help get it established and up and running and live, but it sounds like you'll also explain a little bit along the way, bookkeeping service and trying to help these guys, because I can't tell you, Caleb, the amount of guys that are probably sitting here going, man, what's a cost code? And don't feel any way, guys. Like literally don't feel any way. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't until Sarah looked at me and we can't go any further with Procore integration until we have cost codes. Do you know what a cost code is? I'm like, I'm going to go get a job. Love you. Like, who was I going to reach out to? We would have already had that person in place if, you know what I mean? So the level of implementation is always going to be, I believe, the stigma killer for you guys as you move forward, because if you can carry that out, man, it sounds like the perfect tool that you can track from point of contract to job closeout. And is it decently user friendly? You're hitting around about it, but the one thing I couldn't stand about Procore is how unforgiving it was once you went live with something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
QuickBooks has gotten a little bit we just recently switched from desktop over the years. We were told that we had to have desktop, and finally we moved back to online. That was a whole process in itself. But like, I've always heard QuickBooks is very unforgiving. I used to run our books the first year or two, QuickBooks Online, but very, very, very high level. But it was there,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a great point. And so I would say this, like, to use ControlQore, you need to understand what it means to like run a business. That's it. Like, if you don't know that, then let's go back to like, let's go and do a little bit of learning. But I fundamentally, like, that's, I think, one of the biggest stigmas that like the blue collar world gets, is that people don't know how to run businesses. And yet I sit down with prospects and customers every week, and these owners, operators are some of the most sophisticated people that I know. And they actually know their software. They know their processes really, really well. And so like knowledge around that is rarely like a challenge. What is the thing is like ControlQore covers a lot of ground for your company. And so that's where it's like, we do have to kind of show you through the software. We have to do some key setup for you to make sure that the data that's coming in is correct. But outside of that, what we do is we try to replicate like muscle memory in the system. So when you get credit card transactions coming through, you've got the open transactions. You review those, you job cost them, you tag them to a project, you apply the data that you want, link the receipts, and then it's submitted. Now it moves to pending approvals. You go through that process. Guess what the bill management system looks like? The exact same structure. You have the open bills, you go through job costs, you tag, moves into pending approval, right? And so you don't have to relearn every step of the software every time. You can get into a new module and be like, oh, I know where this is, because it's the same process. So that's like, we have a full mobile application, and that's great for the field staff. You're spending $500 at Home Depot, and you can easily split that $500 across 3 different projects and apply the receipt there and job cost that, right? And I've done this, and it takes like 20 seconds on your phone and you're done. And so we tried to optimize for field staff and what's important there, as well as optimize for your back end. There's so many owners that I talk to, they're like, yeah, dude, like, we're doing good and stuff. And I'm like, hey, let me talk to your accounts payable specialist. And they're just dying, and I'm like, well, you have a really good accounts payable specialist or controller, because they're making your life really easy and they're creating a lot of deliverables. How they do their job might be they're going insane. And so let's talk to them about, how we can make that process better. But either way, I would say it's user friendly, it's streamlined, it makes sense. That's one of the biggest things, that points of feedback we get about QuickBooks Online, particularly around like trying to use that in a job costing environment, project-based accounting. It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive, right? So, again, I say like ControlQore is not like a basic software. It is accounting. So if like you just hate accounting, no matter what tool, then let's talk about our bookkeeping team and things like that. We can just get this done for you. But if you'd like to get involved with that, and you love those systems, and you want a tool that's even better and more optimized and makes sense and simple to use, then ControlQore is a great fit there. So
I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said, I've met a lot of owners that are super sophisticated, blue collar entrepreneurs that, visionaries, and man, I've met them too. They're unbelievable people. It's not from the lack of effort. It's just from the lack of somebody sitting down, speaking their language for an hour or two. It's not that they didn't retain the knowledge, but it's a lot of times, that I have found, especially, doing this show and sitting down with white collar professionals that are extremely decorated. And here I am, a ditch digger, you know what I mean? But trying to sit down and embrace that conversation so they can understand that, hey, look, yeah, you need a little bit of bookkeeping knowledge. And they may have gone, man, I remember that time that Caleb said on that one podcast, yeah, I need to put a little bit of time. My wife's been after me, or, the lady in the front office really needs some help on the bookkeeping. Yeah, get a little fractional help, man. I'm doing the same thing, man. Get it to a point. But what it sounds like ControlQore is when you're ready to take that next step and you're scaling and you're growing and you need the visibility about where your money's going, because there comes a point, man, when I grew fast. My God, I don't recommend it. But at the same time, I did it. And so I wish I had something like this in place 3 or 4 years ago, that I could have had the visibility through the growth of per project. Because back to another point, man, a lot of these guys, and you're giving a tool of accountability, because, I had some dump trucks that were just eating us alive, drop between payroll and drivers and maintenance and payments. And I got these guys over here carrying the mail on the pipe crew. And then my dirt guy's over here, he's doing pretty good for a couple months. And he just, absolutely had a terrible month, whatever the case may be. But how do you know what your business is doing? And a lot of these blue collar guys, you may have HVAC company and you may be sitting there going, man, I do a lot of freaking service calls. I'm tired of doing service calls. But if you don't have the visibility and the transparency that go, oh, well, that's 30% of my monthly reoccurring cash flow to be able to fund these large projects that I want to chase more of. Maybe if I ramped up more of my, reoccurring cash, it's all about what I'm getting at, guys, not to go too far off in the weeds. There comes a point in time where strategy becomes a thing. And whether you think it's not a thing, but budgeting, cash flow projections, forecasting, the things I say that I didn't highlight and focus a lot when I was building Sycon in the first 7 years out of the 10. And then I finally hyper focused on it. But by then it was too late. I'm trying to build a freaking airplane as I'm flying it. And I don't recommend that at all. And, sometimes it comes crashing and you got to do everything you can to get her back in the air as fast as you can. And it's that roller coaster of volatility, but volatility, I think I said that wrong, but they fact check me. They spell check me all the time on here. So anyhow, but that next, you have a team of girls and they're trying on the bookkeeping level, but they need a software. They're scanning through all these Excel sheets every single time. You're like, hey, give me this. And they're producing these documents. Give them a program like this. Maybe not jive off all the way to the ProQuore level. Don't, you may have a small, like I started doing just literally project on Microsoft Teams and we all shared it. And that's where the job data went. Okay. But how does that all transfer and tangle up? Get them a product like ControlQore where they could start at the point of contract and visibly see the guys didn't, for some reason, order concrete out of a truck and they went to the dadgum Lowe's and bought a pallet of Quikrete. That kind of stuff affects margins after a while. And the one thing, the big analogy on job costing that I like to share, and shout out to Mr. Nick Peters. He was on episode 20-something of the Blue Collar, www.bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. You can listen and watch completely free from there, or any of your beautiful podcasts streaming services. Drop us a rating and follow. Shameless plug there real quick. But the number one thing that hit home with me as a blue collar guy, I'm an underground contractor. He sits down with me and he says, all right, Si, you say you know your cost. And say I've got, and the audience is probably tired of hearing me say this. I've shared it several times, but it's stuck with me and it's perfect for the topic. Say we've got 2 guys bid to go do 20 manholes. Okay. They're bid at 2 days per manhole. Well, the dirt crew has been rained out for a couple of weeks, and Johnny said, let's hop over on Billy's crew with the manhole guys. They needed the help. It'll make it easier on them. Okay, so now we got 3 guys, right? So then spin around. It took him on the first 4 manholes, it took them 4 days apiece. Okay, when did you know that Johnny hopped on Billy's crew and made it a 3-man crew? And when did you know that it took them 4 days of labor per manhole instead of your 2 days? Is it at manhole number 2? Is it at manhole number 5, 10, 20, 6 months after the job's complete? Never. Like, I was at that never part of the meter, and I'm slowly been working my way back, and it takes time, guys, all the way back down to live tracking and going, hey, we're on our second manhole. The work in progress report shows us that we're bleeding a little bit here on labor. And why is the concrete bill on this so high? Oh, well, they were going to Lowe's, whatever the case may be, guys. I'm just trying to bring light to it, is that you've got to know, it's your survival of your company. You've got to know at manhole 2 to 10, somewhere in there, where you still have control over it, where 50% of the job is there to still make up, and you can do something about it. And if you have a tool and the right people doing exactly what we've been talking about through this show and giving you that, it's very easy for the guy that knows how to go pour manholes to go fix the guys going and pouring manholes than it is for the CFO putting us six months after and going, hey, here's your report. You lost your butt on that. And this is why. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And, I think you call it a good point on the labor tracking, on timekeeping too, right? Like, that's a big part of this. And we have some great partners which enable us to bring in the full circle. It have innovative tools around timekeeping and job costing at the labor level, so that then you can know when to change those from project A to project B and allocate those expenses accordingly at the labor level. And so it's a lot, and I understand why it doesn't get done, because we joke that it's like eating your vegetables. I mean, if you don't eat your vegetables, where are you going to end up? But at the same time, like, sometimes you got to make the effort to do it. And but the cool thing is there is tangible business outcomes from this. I mean, I was sharing with you some of those that we've had with our clients, and you have tangible increases in net profit, right? This is profit that goes to the owners, profit that goes to the growth of the company, to the new office, to the nicer computers, to the cooler truck, right? All of that stuff that everybody wants and the progress that they want, like, that can't happen if that's getting all sucked back into the projects through their margins.
Dude, you're hitting the nail right on the head, my guy. It's definitely been a different perspective to hear about, number one, thank you for you and the team for putting this product together, pushing it out there and go, hey guys, there is another solution out there to QuickBooks. Yeah, we don't own 80% of the market and gobble it up every chance we get as soon as somebody else starts. But hey, we're doing this built by contractors for contractors. And I think the last question I got here, well, I got two last. One that I always ask everybody on the show, and it'd be kind of interesting from a software guy. But the other thing is we can hear that it's built for general contractors, but are you guys willing to take the time during that implementation and tailor it for more subcontractor based and move the modules around, or however that may be, to get it to what they need to look like?
Yeah, 100%. And I would say actually 50% of our customer base are subcontractors. So
okay.
we work with epoxy guys, painters. We have one of the premier painters out of Chicago we love. We have restoration companies. We have all kinds of specialty and subcontractors across the United States, and the dynamic nature of their specific, really regionalized subcontracting companies. That being said, like, ControlQore is highly adaptable for their processes. The only thing that's not as ideal right now is our lien waiver management system. So we have lien waiver management in ControlQore, and it's built from the GC perspective.
Oh yeah.
We're working to release a subcontractor directional experience there from the lien waiver management side as well. We were GCs first, so we were like looking to solve that massive headache we had around managing lien waivers in there, and so we can do that, and that's primarily a GC experience. That being said, everything else is highly adaptable, flexible for many different types of specialty sub segments of the industry, and that's kind of why we haven't gotten into like the CRM like estimating thing. It's because of like, one, like you said, there's a million other softwares out there that do these well, and two, how nuanced that process is. Everybody's estimating sheet and bidding sheets is like so unique to their own business, but like the core financial and job cost accounting things are highly like relatable across even just being a GC and a sub. And so, yeah, like that we are fully positioned. So I would say, like, honestly, our customer base is pretty much split. Like we have half about GCs and half in the specialty and subcontractor side.
Perfect. I would have felt like I was doing these guys not. That's the other main question. Number one, of course, implementation struggles. But the other thing is these softwares I see often that are built for GCs, subcontractors that are dealing with GCs every single day are trying to, be accustomed to and tailored to what they're using as well. So then they jump and they buy the same program because they think it's going to be tailored the same, and it's just not. And so I wanted to get that question answered. Blue Collar Performance Marketing's passion is to bring attention to the honest work done in blue-collar industries through effective, results-driven marketing tactics. They specialize in comprehensive digital marketing services, from paid advertising on Google and Facebook to website development and content strategy. I started working with Ike and the team earlier this year, and they've had a huge impact on our specific marketing campaign and trajectory of our overall company. Their expertise in digital ad management, website development, social media, and overall marketing strategy has been an absolute game changer for our sales and marketing at SciCon. If you're looking to work with a marketing team who does what they say, does it well, and is always looking for ways to help your company grow, book a discovery call with Ike by going to bcperformancemarketing.com/BCB podcast, or click the link in the show notes /description below. Thanks, guys. Man, I ask everybody this question at the end of every single episode, my guy. And these blue collar guys, and I think you've probably dealt more from the mental pressures of this question, but what's the takeaway for that blue collar worker who is just sick and tired of being stuck in the mud? And that could be taken from the guys coming to you so frustrated about not being able to see, from a project overview, or, emotionally, or maybe even physical.
Yeah. I know it wears on you. I don't have to spend my days out in the sun. So my first tax paying job was as a concrete foreman for basements. I formed basements and homes, dude. It was waking up at 2 a.m. to get ahead of the sun so that we could get off work at 12 and not just die, right? And it's challenging work. And then moving that into like trying to run your company and all of like the cash flow weight and requirements around paying people's salaries and bills every month and everything, it weighs on you. And what I would say is, like, we're a startup too. We're a small business, and we live those pains as well that you guys do. And one of the things that is, one, never underinvest in the team that you build around you. You can't do it all. You literally can't do it all. And I think that is a stigma that gets carried in the contracting world, that they try to just cover all the things, right? And maybe you did well that year because you did that, but then you got done with that year and you're like, dude, I can't do this company anymore because I'm just dying, right? You have to find good talent to buy back your time. And you will see after a slight dump in the, the margin that it takes to pay for that you will see revenue increasing, net profit increasing, your time. One of our customers got 20 hours of their week back as the owner, implementing ControlQore and in our partnership with Josh. So, immense benefits there to now open up your bandwidth to work on the things that fill up your bucket rather than just dragging you down in the mud. Dude, I hate doing this bookkeeping. I hate doing this stuff. I'd rather be out selling or working with my project teams, things that I want to be doing as a professional that I, grew up to be or would like to be. And so think about the things that don't fill up your bucket and how you can bring in good talent that will allow you to just keep moving forward. So,
yep. Be an expert in what you're an expert at and what you're not. Bring the experts in, man. Very well said, but very hard concept for a lot of us in the blue collar space to grab a hold of. Man, Caleb, I really appreciate your time today. Where can we find ControlQore? Where can they find more about you?
You bet. Yeah, you can find us at controlcore.com. If you're interested in setting up a demo there, just click on the Get Started button. It will go straight to me. You get a demo with me. Also, reach out to me in my email, C as in Charlie, Smith, SMITH at controlcore.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Caleb M. Smith. So yeah, happy to chat. Always available. Text me, whatever. We'll meet you where you're at. So we love. I don't think there are people that think about job costing and a project-based accounting more than our team. And so if you have questions and you don't even want to be a ControlQore customer, that's totally fine. If you just want to say hey, how can I do this job cost process better? Whatever, happy to help you and provide value anyway.
Only for you avid listeners of the Blue Collar Business Podcast. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode this week. If it's giving you some value, don't mind giving it a share. Drop us a like, drop us a follow on wherever you're listening or watching us. Mr. Caleb, thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to shaking hands down the road at some event somewhere, I'm assuming.
100%. It's been a pleasure, man.
All right, man. Guys, till next time, y'all be safe.
If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with the fellers, check out our website to send us any questions and comments about your experience in the blue collar business. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. Till next time, guys.